The Department of Justice has a very serious and sensitive new investigation on its hands. The DOJ now looking into leaks of classified U.S. military documents that were shared on social media. Some of the materials were marked top secret. That's the highest level of classification. The leaked documents covered everything from U.S. support for Ukraine to key information about U.S. allies. CNN's Kylie Atwood joins us now. Kylie, what more are we learning? It sounds as though these documents are very sensitive.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, Jim, some of these documents are marked top secret. That's the highest level of classification in the U.S. intelligence system. And so obviously it's really concerning to U.S. officials who are now trying to go through these documents, understand, what exactly is in them. We still don't know the source of them. So these documents appeared on social media sites over the course of the last few weeks, and they gained some attention this week. The first documents that gained attention had to do with U.S. support for Ukraine war plans. And so U.S. officials were asked about those documents, and they said that they do appear to be legitimate U.S. documents. The other documents that we have just gone through in the last 24 hours or so that have to do with a widespread number of issues, related to China, related to Israel, related to the United Arab Emirates. Those are the documents that the Pentagon says that they are still reviewing at this time. And so we don't know if those are all legitimate documents, but when you talk to U.S. officials, they say that they look like they are. So this is an incredibly alarming situation. It's still unfolding in terms of what kind of damage assessment the U.S. government will make as a result of this leak.
And what are U.S. officials telling us about these documents, where they might have come from? I suppose there's plenty of speculation. Do they have any best guesses at this point, or is it still just too early on in this investigation?
Well, it is really early on, but I think it's interesting to look at the actual documents themselves that have appeared on social media, because what it looks like is a crinkled up piece of paper that someone took a picture of. And they have markings, as I said, of top secret on some of them. Some of them have markings of the office in the Pentagon that actually advises President Biden. So these are as close as it gets to, the highest level of U.S. secrets. And when you talk to U.S. officials about these documents, obviously they still say that they're doing an overall assessment to see if any of the documents had been altered when they were put up on these social media sites, but they do say that they do look legitimate.
And do we think this was a hacking of some sort? Could it have been leaked out by U.S. intelligence partners, somebody inside the intelligence community, or inside the Defense Department, perhaps? Any sense of that?
Yeah, I mean, all of those are possibilities. As I said, we just don't know the source right now. But when it comes to U.S. intelligence, the United States shares intelligence with 4 other countries. Together, they are known as the Five Eyes partners. So it's the UK, Canada, the U.S., Australia, and New Zealand. So those are some of the countries that would have shared some of this highly classified U.S. information. But when you look at these documents, some of them have markings that indicate that there was information in them that wasn't shared with any of those partners, even those close U.S. partners. So what that indicates is that if they came all from the same source, we don't know if they did, but it appears that they were all kind of dropped in similar drops here, that would have come from someone or something that gained access to the U.S. intelligence system and not those of our partners. But of course, our partners are just as alarmed by this as U.S. officials are. They're doing their own damage assessments right now to try and figure out, if any information they shared with the U.S. is now leaked into the public eye. Jim?
All right, Kylie Atwood, thanks so much. Really appreciate the reporting. Thanks again. Let's get some perspective on this. We're joined now by retired Lieutenant General Ben Hodges, a former commander of U.S. Army Europe. He's also senior advisor at Human Rights First. General, great to see you. What's your take on these leaked intelligence documents? This does not happen very often, and so when it does happen, it has to be a big concern, not only for the U.S. intelligence community, but as Kylie was talking about a few moments ago, major U.S. allies, major U.S. partners.
Yeah, great reporting by Kylie. Obviously, this is very damaging. You never want your enemy to know what you know, or how you got it. So this will reveal the depth of penetration and a lot of information that we had. And of course, one of the keys to good intelligence is being able to share with other allies, other organizations, and so this will damage some of the trust, that's necessary to have this good intelligence sharing. I expect the investigation will eventually sort of figure out, where did it come from or how did it get out. But it does once again remind us of the vulnerabilities we have and probably some holes in our systems. I can't count the number of times I had to go through online training about preventing just this kind of thing. And so at the end of the day, it's usually about training and discipline.
Right, and these documents are similar to a batch of classified documents about Ukraine that have been circulating online in recent weeks, which U.S. officials on Friday morning confirmed to CNN to be authentic. Some of the documents, which include estimates of Russian casualties and a list of Western weapon systems available to Ukraine, were apparently posted on social media in March. Ukraine believes Russia is behind this purported leak. What do you think, General? I mean, could this jeopardize Ukrainian forces on the battlefield? How serious is it for what's happening in Ukraine?
Well, the Ukrainians, of course, are super disciplined. They've always been reluctant to share information. We've always known more about Russian forces than we did Ukrainian forces. And so I think they'll have done an assessment and figure out what they need to do. But the Ukrainians are agile enough to be able to turn this to advantage, perhaps. Having information does not, if you're not able to use it somehow, it's not necessarily going to be so damaging. So I think the Ukrainians will be smart enough to figure out how to address this. I don't see it as a terrible change for them. The biggest damage is on the trust that we have with our allies.
And I want to switch to Ukraine. Ukraine's energy company today said that over 1,200 Russian missiles and drones have been used to attack the country's utility infrastructure, saying 43% of its main power grid has been damaged. I mean, I guess we thought about this as a possibility heading into the cold winter months. What does this say about the Russian tactics during a vulnerable period like the winter?
Well, I think it showed the desperation of the Russians. I mean, the fact that as many missiles as they have launched, drones, missiles, rockets, different types of platforms, the fact that they really never could knock Ukraine off the grid. And Ukrainians, I'm from Florida, and, we're good at recovering after hurricanes. The Ukrainians became very proficient at rapidly reestablishing their power grid. And I think that British intelligence is reporting that the frequency of these attacks by the Russians is actually beginning to decrease, either because they realize it's a total waste of precious resources, or maybe they are running low and they're worried about needing them for later.